Greetings and welcome back to Stellaris, my Commonwealth of Man playthrough. So it is time for the 2450 State of the Commonwealth. Well, our economy is not in the best shape. This is not accurate for our energy credits, but we are in a deficit. I believe it was around 800, but it's showing negative 4K because I just reloaded the game and it's not fully taking into account my trade value. But our economy could use a little bit more boost. We're getting plenty of alloys. It is the food, minerals, energy credits, and consumer goods that are in the biggest deficit. Of course, we are also a bit short on motes for production as well. We're still over our capacity of star bases and severely over our capacity of fleets. But we are under the shadow of a declaration of war, though it is 9 years late. We still believe the Habenti Unified Worlds will be declaring war on us soon, so we're going to keep our military built up. Now, for some reason, the changes I did at the end of last episode did not save, so I had to end up selling things and renewing the contracts again. I did end up renewing the contracts for 2 of our military fleets. The others can wait 5 years for me to hopefully get out of the deficit and build back up. But I did not renew the contract with the Curator Order. It would only be 5,000, and I sold enough to get up into a pretty high surplus. So I think I will renew this for now. That will give us a little bit more boost on getting the rest of our technology caught up. Score-wise, we're still strongly in 4th place. The Fel Null are not too far behind us, but they and the Glossrahenians should be weakened if we end up going to war with them, because we will end up taking territory from them. Our biggest threats are actually the Star Realm of Shar and the Soran, because they are in fairly big and strong alliances. The Glossrahenians actually lost presidency of the Allied Independent Systems. I believe the Fel Null are now the leader of the Allied Independent Systems. Most of the galaxy is not that friendly with us anymore. If we look at relations mode or opinion map mode, most of the galaxy dislikes us because we will never fully recover from the bit of genocide that we ended up doing. Plus, we have been cracking worlds and using our neutron sweeps on worlds, so most of them end up not liking that. But it's mainly the genocidal from us doing purges of sentient species other than robots that really skyrocketed our poor relations and put us in a bad spot. We're in the process of integrating the Great Human Empire. It's going to take another 7 years before they are fully integrated. Most of our fleets are at full strength. We do have a few newer fleets that need to be upgraded that we recently acquired from our integration of the new Ubaric regime. And I do recall why Strike Force Sphinx was over here in Talon, because we had rented the fleet from the new Ubaric regime, and when our contract ended, they were over here in Talon and just remained, and we ended up integrating them anyway. Now, we do have one of the strongest militaries. If we look at our fleet power, our base fleet power is about 60k, which is equivalent to the Interstellar Pricarian Coalition and about double the Hierarchy of Moffith. Most of these will have around half of our fleet power base, if not less. The one that has the closest, of course, is the Interstellar Pricarian Coalition. The problem is most of them are in pretty strong federations, so they get to combine their overall fleet capacity. But we are working on taking care of that. We're still in our feud with the Allied Independent Systems, and as soon as I get my economy stabilized a little more, if they have not declared war on us, I will declare war on them. I'm kind of hoping to get them embroiled in another war first, so that they'll suffer some casualties there, and it'll be a little easier for us to push where we want, rather than them striking us. As for our colony situation, we still have a few worlds that are in the process of terraforming. Most of them are colonies. Only one is still a barren world that is not yet colonized, and that is Stellaris 5. It also is a carbon world with a bonus to minerals, so hopefully it will have a decent amount of mining districts. Our capital remains Unity. It is an ecumenopolis, and it is as fully developed as it can be. We are still in the process of replacing slaves, old slaves, and slaves we acquired from other conquers with our new breeds, like the Simolans, to operate the artisan and metallurgist jobs. Unity still has the colonial spirit modifier. That is a modifier that will never go away. We have performed Mastery of Nature, and we installed the Memorex there for more resources from jobs, which is mainly benefiting specialist jobs at this point, it being an ecumenopolis. It's also a fairly heavy research world. Our orbital ring has the orbital embassy complex, giving us a free building slot for something else, and is mainly boosting bureaucrats with the orbital filing system. As administrative arcologies are the primary, though it does have a little bit of factory and foundry, and of course a couple of leisure districts to keep amenities fairly high. Jackson Station is a astro mining station in the Deneb system. It is fully developed. It still possesses a clone vat because it is still in the process of generating the Sweetland to replace other slaves and our old Ignar Vol as the miners, because they are slightly better. It's only 0.6 better than our old Ignar Vol, but it is about 2 points better, or 2.4 points better than the other slaves we have. As soon as we generate the final miner that we need for this world, it already has its replacement entertainers. We do need to get to work on replacing the culture workers. We will ship these humans off-world, and by then the Bothrin will be eliminated anyway. I believe it, yeah, this is the current one we're declining. For some reason, it picks a random portrait when you have no progress whatsoever and select a species rather than picking the portrait of that species. That's just a little bug. Flaxington, in the Tanab system, was one of our first colonies. Now, we had a cave shroom spores that was causing ferocity on the world, but we managed to harness it so that it boosted population growth. There were also Nemas, basically living islands on this world that we ended up enslaving. We did a Mastery of Nature here, and it is one of our research worlds, generating about 350 research to every field. That is a small fraction of our overall research at this point, since we are generating about 4K in every field at this point. It will remain an actual colony because of the spore vents, because they generate gas plant engineering jobs. Though I don't believe we will end up getting another job. We have an overabundance right now of slaves that we are thinning off, but we are going to keep the agriculture and mining here. As a matter of fact, the orbital ring supports the agriculture and mining. And this is one of the worlds that mainly generates humans for us, though as soon as this next human is built, I am going to generate our new species, the Canadolans, to replace the culture workers, and we will end up moving the surplus humans over to other worlds that need them, such as Destinicon. Destinicon recently became an ecumenopolis. It is in the Austin system. This was originally a world we terraformed. ended up with a strong magnetic field, which does a little bit of boost to physics research, so that is why this is become a research world, since it has become an ecumenopolis. And we did perform Mastery of Nature here. We do not yet have an orbital ring, but there is a large amount of free bureaucrat jobs for our humans to work here, now that it has become an ecumenopolis. So surplus humans, as they get replaced in other jobs, will be shifted over to this world. Other than that, we are still phasing out the Farine for our new Philadolans as the entertainers here. As soon as we finish that, we can work on phasing out the culture workers with the new Canadolans. That will shift them over to be bureaucrats. Dawnlight in the Hantaran system is another recently transformed into an ecumenopolis. There are a couple of buildings I have not replaced at this time, that I simply disabled, that are no longer valid here. This is primarily a factory world, though it will have some administrative arcology. Right now I have stopped development on this world until we fill up some of the jobs, because there's no point in me paying energy credits and strategic resources for arcologies that do not have the people to work them. That's another reason I haven't bothered making new buildings. But we have a lot of replacement to do for the Simolans here to push out our old Praku and the few slaves we have on this world. And more humans are being grown to fill the bureaucrat jobs. These buildings will more than likely become fortresses to help support our naval capacity. When I get done providing other species here, I will start building a surplus of Verbanites through the clone vats so that I can start adding more soldier jobs. Destiny in the Senagawa system was another world we ended up terraforming. We made it intentionally tide-locked. It is one of our major energy production worlds. It is currently producing about 1,400 energy through the technician jobs. There is still room for one more. Right now, the orbital ring is not fully upgraded, though the upgrade it has, the level it is at, it is still boosting our engineers. But with one more upgrade, we can add another generator district. We have already performed Mastery of Nature here, and there was high gravity on this world. And we are still in the process of doing our new Volpilans to replace our old oxen litter. It is about a 0.8 energy credit per worker increase, and also the food cost goes down. As you see, the oxen litters require 1.8 each, where our Volpilans only require 1.2. Doran in the Obashoth system was a primitive world we ended up invading. I believe it was the third one we ended up invading. We have performed a Mastery of Nature here. This world will not become an ecumenopolis, as it has moat harvesting traps, and moats are one of the ones we have a shortage of anyway. We have built extra moat harvesting chemical plants to support that, with the ancient refinery boosting both the moat harvesting and the chemist jobs. It's pretty much at the extent of its development until it gets a further upgrade to its orbital ring, which is currently just supporting the technicians on this world. It will end up also boosting food output, I believe. And we are still in the process of replacing our old slave species here. I had prioritized the Simolans to be able to replace the refinery jobs over the slave levels for farmers, because we did not have as much of a need for food at the time. Mendos, also in the Obashoth system, was another world we terraformed, and we ended up turning it into a penal colony to cut down on crime on our other worlds. However, this reduction to crime only affects crime after reducing it for pop jobs and governor skill. So it's only the surplus crime that gets reduced. So it doesn't really save you on enforcers having a penal colony. It just means when you lack sufficient enforcers, the penalty is not as severe. We are in the process of performing a Mastery of Nature on this world. It'll be done in 3 months. It already has an orbital ring, which is an orbital anchorage, but it can still get another upgrade, but it is boosting the food output currently. The next upgrade will most likely boost the mining done here, because this world will not become an ecumenopolis, because it also has mode harvesting traps. Camelot, in the Obatellis system, is an ecumenopolis. It is primarily administrative with some foundries, and there are a couple of fortresses on the world as well. Its orbital ring still has one further upgrade it can do. It is currently boosting the alloy production. The next one will boost the bureaucrats. I'm not even sure what our next building would be with an extra habitation module, what other arcology we would want to build. We currently have 8 foundry, which gives us a grand total of 50 metallurgist jobs with the alloy nano plants, and we have 10 administrative arcologies, which gives us 60 bureaucrats. I more than likely will just add another leisure arcology, just to make sure once I get the population full on this world that the amenities stay fairly high, because there will be a lot of humans on here being the administrators. There's a lot of available jobs because it has only recently become an ecumenopolis. Grinstead, over in the Valimar system, is another astro mining facility. It's currently being scanned by the enigmatic cache, and since we're only about 50 years away from endgame, I'm not sure the enigmatic cache is going to complete its scan of every system or every colony before the game is over at this point. This one is fully developed. I still have a clone vat on here in place of the slave processing facility, because we are still churning out Sweetland to replace the currently used slaves and our old Ignar Vault. St. Natchbel, over in Lithium, was the first primitive civilization we conquered. We have been running an anti-crime campaign here because crime is fairly high. And we have performed a Mastery of Nature here. This will not become an ecumenopolis because it has not only a dust desert providing 2 mode harvesting traps, but also a crystalline cavern providing crystal mines. It has pretty much reached the extent of its development. It can upgrade the orbital ring one more time. It is currently boosting the farming districts, and we can end up boosting either mining, or more than likely we will boost the factory output of consumer goods. And our next district would also be another industrial district. St. Natchbel was the home of the Farine, I believe. Yeah, they have 100% habitability here. I believe this was their homeworld. Finn Castle, also in the Elythium sector, was another world we terraformed. We are currently running an anti-crime campaign here as well. This world has a fuming bog providing 2 gas extraction wells, so it will not turn into an ecumenopolis. And it is primarily a generator and forge world with 1 mining district. When I build an orbital ring here, it's unlikely I will bother with habitation modules. I mean, I could boost more industrial districts, but since I have ecumenopoli that have an abundance of arcologies they can get to provide metallurgist jobs, there's not really a need. I am more interested in adding an orbital anchorage here so that I can boost my naval capacity. Hawksworth, also in the Elythium sector, was another world we terraformed and made intentionally tidally locked. We have performed Mastery of Nature, and it is a energy producing world, currently producing 1,300 energy credits here. It does have room for one more district with a further upgrade of the orbital ring. Other than that, it does have several fortresses on the world. And we are still replacing our oxen litter with the new Vulpilins, which would give us about half a point extra of energy credit per worker. Leffingwell is another ecumenopolis we have built. We are also running an anti-crime campaign here, and we've already done Mastery of Nature. It does not currently have an orbital ring. It is primarily has foundry arcologies with a handful of administrative districts and fortresses to boost our naval capacity. This was the second primitive civilization we invaded, and was the home world of the oxen litter, who we are slowly phasing out. There is an abundance of free jobs, mainly for humans to work the bureaucrat jobs, but a handful of metallurgist jobs that can be worked here. Proclaus, in the Finn Habanus system, was the capital of the First League, and was originally a relic world that became our first ecumenopolis. We have performed Mastery of Nature here, and it is primarily a research world because, having been former relic world, it gets a pretty good bonus to society, research, and engineering on top of the bonuses that the ecumenopolis also provides. Gives it about 30% boost to science output here. Other than that, it is very heavy on administrative arcologies. It still does have one more upgrade it can do to its orbital ring. It is currently boosting the bureaucrats here. This final district will be another leisure arcology, just to make sure I keep sufficient amenities. The planet is at its overall capacity. We have the facility of Archaeo Studies centered here, as well as the First League filing offices, both of which are boosting. This is boosting research, and this is boosting bureaucrats. Unfortunately, there are no orbital ring buildings that boost researchers, and there is no real other production on this world to boost. Since this world is pretty much at its complete capacity, we are just in the process of generating slaves that we will send to other worlds. Pretty much has its full allotment of Philadolins, so any Philadolins that are grown here are shipped to other worlds that need them. We are in the process of adding the Canidolins to replace the culture workers, so these humans will be able to move to other worlds that need either researchers or bureaucrats. After we get those slots filled up, this world will go back to churning out more Furbanites to send to our worlds that need our battle thralls. Melpomene in the Ophang system was another world we terraformed. We have performed Mastery of Nature already here, and this is a factory world currently. It is undergoing the Arcology project, but it is still about 6 years away from completing it. Actually, that may be exactly 6 years. 5 years would be 1800. Add another 360 and you'd have 2160. So yeah, that is exactly 6 years away from completing this project. Currently, this is a refinery world, providing more synthetic crystal plants. We do have an abundance of rare crystals, so I may shift this to moats instead, if I even retain the refinery on this when it becomes an ecumenopolis. Bastion in the Niamba system is also undergoing the Arcology project. It is 8 years from completing its Arcology project. Yeah, exactly 8 years, because 8 times 360 would be 2400 plus 480, which would end up being 2880. So this is 8 years away from it completing its Arcology project. It will become a forge an ecumenopolis with foundry arcologies and administrative arcologies. We are running an anti-crime campaign here and have already performed Mastery of Nature. Other than that, it will maintain fortresses. It's going to free up the hyper-entertainment forums, so it will get yet another fortress. And we will probably at that point, actually we could at this point replace the slave processing facility with one anyway. We don't really need to recruit slave armies anymore at this point, because we can just generate clone armies of our slave species. The benefit of slave armies was their cheap price. Yeah, if we look at them, they had a cheaper price, but they also had less morale and they have a cheaper upkeep. But clone armies generate fairly quickly, don't have that much more upkeep, but they have more morale. So since we have clone vats, there's not really much of a point to hanging on to slave processing facilities just for the ability to recruit slave armies. Now, it does cut down on the political power of slaves, but that isn't really as necessary. We generally have enough political power with our human leaders that we don't have to worry about that. Beauclair's legacy is in the Mestros system. This was another world we terraformed. It was originally named Earth 2, is what our people wanted to call it, but we decided to rename it to Beauclair's Legacy when it became an ecumenopolis. Sidney Beauclair was our original leader of the Commonwealth of Man, and this, instead of this being a second home for us so much, it is going to be primarily an administrative and factory facility in kind of her, as kind of a tribute to her. We've already performed Mastery of Nature here. There is a further upgrade we could do on the station, and since it has become an ecumenopolis, we will eventually shift these over to habitation districts. But right now we have plenty of spare district space and plenty of available jobs currently. As a matter of fact, I closed quite a few of the artisan jobs so that I could end up replacing the chemists and gas refiners and translucers with simoleons. That will push the humans back to the bureaucrat jobs. Rhea is a refinery station, also in the Maestros system. Our refinery stations have an ancient refinery and one of each refining facility on it, giving them an overall of 2 of every type of refiner. This one has reached the peak of its development unless I were to upgrade the station further or upgrade the habitat further, which all that will provide is additional trade districts or leisure districts, neither of which are necessary. So this is a very low priority habitat for me to upgrade. Although in the current release of the game, habitats have been completely reworked, so my strategy for habitats will have to be reworked as well when we proceed to our next game. But currently, I am in the process of replacing populations on this with our new species, but they have to be grown elsewhere because we do not have space to put a clone vat on our refining stations. Schimmel's world, also in the Maestro system, is another refinery station, also at the extent of its development. As is Agartha, the third refinery station in the Maestro system at the extent of its full development. Thebes was another intentionally tide-locked world we terraformed, and we have performed Mastery of Nature here. It is a fairly small world over in the Tetera system, but it has the full extent of its generator districts, so there is no need for habitation modules, so its orbital ring is an anchorage, and it can further upgrade. Other than that, we are producing a lot of synthetic crystals here. Truitt, over in the Kornagi system, was a primitive civilization that got overrun by AI that they developed. And we ended up coming in and putting down the robots and seizing the system. It is the homeworld of the Rigerians. Though we are in the process of phasing them out, they are no longer necessary. Now that most of our species could get up to 100% habitability on any world, there's not really much of a point to hanging on to species just because we have their homeworld. It will not become an ecumenopolis. It has crystal mines on it, and it also had an abundance of both generator districts and agricultural districts. Its orbital ring is an anchorage because there is no real need for additional district slots here. It does have room for upgrade, and we have already performed Mastery of Nature here. Asher was a tomb world in the Kornagi system that we terraformed, and we actually engineered it to provide both form and function to its inhabitants and boosted the amenities slightly. We have performed Mastery of Nature here. This is going to become an ecumenopolis, and it will be a factory arcology primarily, with some administration. But we are short of the minerals we need to perform additional arcology projects. It takes 20,000 per arcology project, and we are currently sitting at only 14,000 minerals. Bid Shukon in the Magam system was originally part of the, I believe it was the Ubaric Empire that spanned down here, and when we turned them into a vassal, they changed their name, of course, to Autocracy of Rakaron, I believe it was. And when we integrated them, we got this world, Bid Shukon. Bid Shukon will remain an actual colony because it has a dust desert providing mote harvesting. We've pretty much reached the extent of the development here. It's going to be generating a lot of food and some energy and mining districts for us. We may eventually shift mining and generator districts to factory production if we need to, when we get an abundance of both energy credits and minerals from other sources. In the meantime, though, this serves its purpose this way. Its orbital ring is only at tier 1, so it just has a couple of habitation modules. And there is a lot of available jobs on this world. Nagrama, over in the Wallius system, was a world that was part of the United Latrepian domains, but they rebelled against the Latrepians, and we ended up taking these two systems away. Nagrama has Beltharan fields, providing a Beltharan power plant. I've already removed the Beltharan power plant. This will eventually become an ecumenopolis, but for now we are using it to supplement our mineral output. It provides almost 400 minerals from this world, and it is a forge world. There is a research boon on this world from the development of the AI, and that will be a permanent boost to research on this world, so we have made it primarily a research world. Mastery of Nature has already been performed, and it has a fully developed orbital ring supporting currently the alloy processing and the mineral production. Pildara is a astro mining facility in the Wallius system. It is pretty much at the extent of its development, although we still do have a clone vats here until we generate all the Sweetlands to replace our old slaves. Ferdera, in the Euchromia system, is a thrall world we recently designated. We have performed Mastery of Nature here. As a thrall world, we are using this to help generate our species. However, we don't develop it too quickly because amenities are primarily produced on thrall worlds from toilers. which we currently don't have any of because we have servants instead. Servants can also produce amenities, but it's primarily from toilers that amenities are produced on thrall worlds. So we need to kind of regulate the jobs that we are producing based on the population, because if we end up having too many free jobs, it will pull the people who are serving as servants or toilers into those jobs and cut down on our amenities, where we can start running into amenity situations. Because you cannot build hollow theaters or entertainer jobs here. All you can have are pretty much the clerks, and you can't even build commercial buildings to generate more clerks. Again, on Thrall Worlds, you mainly want a surplus of population so that some of them can work as toilers. So we've kind of slowed development while we're generating more slaves and slowly purging the slaves we picked up from war. Its orbital ring is an anchorage because there's not really much need to have additional districts. It's boosting both the energy credit and food output of this world. Though we don't really have much beyond like one food processing facility at this time, and it is not even fully upgraded. We recently converted this to a thrall world by shifting a lot of the population off so I could get rid of districts to do the conversion. Varba is a research station in the Euchromia district. It has reached the extent of its development. I've already gotten rid of the clone vats for luxury residence, as we are able to shift some of these people off-world and replacing our other species. The housing requirement should go down, because it's primarily the humans requiring the most housing, and these slaves that are unmodified that we are slowly declining. Row Essex, over in the Seora system, was one of the worlds we got from the autocracy of Rakaron. It will eventually become an ecumenopolis likely, but for now we are using it as a rural world to provide more basic resources. It has currently reached the extent of its development. We need to save up enough for a mastery of nature, which I believe requires energy credits, which we are currently in a deficit of, is the reason I'm not performing more of them. Ira Manosk is also in the Seora system and was originally a planet of the autocracy of Rakaron. It is primarily a mining world, although it's designated as a forge world for its one industrial district at this time. It will eventually become an ecumenopolis as well, and more than likely will have foundry arcologies. Ganlariv is a Gaia world that was the capital of the Ganlariv Remnant, and we swept this world with a neutron's weapon. It's got 6 days left on the neutron bombardment that is reducing the habitability on this world from the neutron sweep. We are assisting research, even though there's not really much in the way of research on this world. We are still in the process of shifting the overabundance of city districts over to be generator districts. This world will not become an ecumenopolis. Not only is it a Gaia world, but it does have dust desert and crystalline caverns. So we will mainly use the large amount of districts to provide agriculture, energy credits, and minerals. Nova Babylon is another Gaia world that is in orbit, actually, of Ganlariv. That is one of Ganlariv's moons here in the Raztan system. And it will primarily be a mining world. It does have crystalline caverns, so it will not become an ecumenopolis. It's still got about 4 months left on the effect of its neutron bombardment. But we are still in the process of developing these worlds. We just recently colonized them not too long ago. St. Casper is in the Stellaris system, and it was a shielded world that had a Ganlariv admiral on it. And when we just recently found several large underground mineral deposits. So this will become a mining world because of the huge boost to mineral output. And it is just slowly being developed now. It does have a large amount of districts, but not near enough to get all of the available mining districts. Hinckley's Hope is in the Lindula system. It was another colony of the Ganler Remnant. And we are currently developing it as a mining world. It has an isolated valley, though there's not really... We did build an alien zoo here, though there aren't any pre-sentient species to put in the zoo, so we're not getting the full benefit of the zoo. I am not sure if you can actually resettle pre-sentient species now, that they have given you the ability to make them with the devolving beam. So I'm not sure if this will remain as it is, or if we will end up converting it to an ecumenopolis yet. It's something we can worry about later down the road. Nova Antioch was a recently terraformed world that was unclaimed before we conquered the Ganler Remnant. There was an atmospheric hallucinogen on this world that we ended up filtering to reduce the negative effects. It will make a fairly decent research world, but it is also a candidate to become an ecumenopolis. It's a fairly recent addition, so it's only at the planetary administration level. And currently it just has the core infrastructure of clone vats, cyto-revitalization centers. We do have a mineral purification hub to support the mining districts, starting on a heritage site, and hollow theaters. So we haven't really specialized this beyond mining world at this time. Capella in the Cantharum system was one of the first colonies we took away from the Ganlerif. It is a factory world. It will eventually become an ecumenopolis, but for now we are mainly using it for minerals. Now this was a world we ended up terraforming already and generated natural beauty. I believe it was a tundra world. Most of the Ganlerifs were tundra or alpine. They were all Arctic in nature. But we have several strongholds set up here, trying to help boost our naval capacity. As you see, the amount of strongholds I have are still not sufficient. Aurora, over in the Coggin system, is another recent colony we picked up. It's still slowly being developed. It's currently set up as a mining world. It will eventually become an ecumenopolis. There's not a huge abundance of resource districts here to push off me converting it to that. Carecia in the Romseer system was a colony of the Ganlerif, and I decided I wanted to turn it into a resort world, so we ended up having to abandon this colony to be able to downgrade the administration to the point where I could do it. We only recently recolonized this world, so it has a very low population currently. And it is just now being developed. But that did boost amenities on all of my other worlds. However, it prevents me from developing the districts. Thankfully, this was a fairly small world with fairly poor district outputs anyway. But we are going to build military academies and strongholds on this world to help boost our naval capacity. Jurg Onderine is in the Podanis system. It was a world we took away from the Miravandian Coalition, I believe it was called. Or is that ours? Yeah, the Miravandian Coalition. We ended up taking this away from them. We have developed this as a mining world. It is another ecumenopolis potential, but for now it will serve for resources. We are having to run an anti-crime campaign here, and as you see, we still have a small amount of crime. It has a fully developed orbital ring currently enhancing both the mineral and energy credit output of this world. We have not yet performed Mastery of Nature. Pollen Cloud is a habitat in the Ishnor system. There was another habitat in this system or there was another colony in this system. We ended up, Blooming Fields was the name of it. We ended up using it as a testing ground for our Earthcracker, for planet cracking weapon on our Colossus. But Pollen Cloud is a mining bay, and it is currently at peak development. As a matter of fact, we still have the clone vats because we do have quite a few Sweetlands to end up producing for this. Yerg Pabdoon was another colony we took away from the Mirvanian Coalition. It is in the Taurus system. It is currently a mining world, but this is another Humanopolis candidate. There is high gravity on this world, and we are using this as a gas refinery primarily. Yerg Nutheg was another colony in the Taurus system. We currently have it set as a mining world. It has dust caverns and a fuming bog, so it will not become an Ecumenopolis. It is a tiny world anyway, so it's pretty much at the extent of its development. Even with an orbital ring, I don't think I would bother adding additional districts to it. I could add habitation districts and do a mastery of nature and get all of the generator districts, but I'm not really sure that's worth it. I might just do a mastery of nature and pick up a few generator districts to supplement. I'm not sure if I'll even bother with the mastery of nature on this world. But it is primarily producing gas and motes for us. Grasping Branch is a generator station in the Taurus system. It has reached its peak development. It just still has the clone vats while we generate more Volpilins to work the technician jobs. Na Valis is the former capital of the Empire Autocracy of Rakaron. It is a forge world. It does have crystalline caverns, so it is unlikely I will convert this to an Ecumenopolis. It's pretty much at the peak of its development at this point. When the planetary capital upgrades again into more population, I can shift a city district over to be another industrial district. Rodoman is also in the Rakaron system. We have a couple of strongholds set up here. This is an Ecumenopolis candidate and will become a foundry archaeology primarily when we are able to convert it. Adavirish is in the Sim system. It was another colony of the Autocracy of Rakaron. This one does have mote harvesting traps, so we're pretty much going to leave it in the state it's at. Further districts from Mastery of Nature will most likely become industrial districts supporting the factory production. Since I will have Ecumenopoli providing the majority of our consumer goods, I'm not sure it would be necessary to bother with habitation districts when we build a orbital ring for this. But it is primarily doing with the ancient refinery generating mote harvesting for us. Nadal in the Plessis system is another colony of the Autocracy of Rakaron we inherited. It has high gravity. It's currently at the extent of its development as a factory world. Eventually we will shift it over to be an Ecumenopolis. But for now it is a chemical refinery primarily with some food production and factory work. Also in the Plessis system is Plessis 3, which is a recently terraformed barren world, and we do have a colony ship en route already, the Manifest Destiny 2. In the Hazar system, we have Ira Obus, another colony of the Autocracy of Rakaron. This is another Humanopolis candidate. It also is another world with high gravity. Currently, we are using it for mining and agriculture. Over in the Ramstan system, we have Yerg Querlid, another Autocracy of Rakaron world. This one is also a huge resource producer, strategic resource producer, having a dust desert, bubbling swamp, and crystalline caverns. So it will not become an ecumenopolis. However, I did shift it over to be a factory world. It had very little resource districts that weren't really worth having an additional building to support. And we are quite crowded with buildings with all of the strategic resource mining buildings we have anyway. Faunus in the Punter's Head system is another world we recently terraformed, giving it natural beauty, and it has just started being colonized. It has a long way to go, and it does have gas extraction wells, so it is unlikely to become an ecumenopolis. This being an extremely sizable world, it will probably end up with some industry on it, as well as the mining districts, which are the most proficient. For now, I will be using the agriculture and generator districts for a while until we get sources elsewhere just to supplement income. But it will probably be primarily a refinery and possibly a factory world. Jotunheim is over here near the Ganlarov in the Gaia system. It was a world we colonized a while back. Nobody had bothered to claim these sectors because of the Ganlarov remnant. It does provide boat harvesting, and other than that we are using it as a chemical refinery, and it had sufficient size to get all of its little resource gathering, though we haven't bothered boosting them. They're just getting the bare minimum. We are eventually, when we no longer need these because we have better sources elsewhere, going to shift this almost entirely to a forge world. Acropolis is in the Nanron system. It is the former capital of the Meravanian Coalition and was dubbed by them Round Nut. We have converted it over to our own purposes as a forge world. It does have a handful of agricultural districts, and since it has crystal mines, it more than likely will not become an ecumenopolis. It has a fully developed orbital ring that we have supporting both the food and alloy production. Nectar of Hope is a mining station in Namron sector. It has reached the extent of its development. We are just still replacing other slaves with our Sweetland. New Roots is a research station in the Namron system. It has a long way to go before we get our full value out of it. We just have a handful of researchers on here right now. Yergwudal was a Meravanian Coalition colony we overtook in the Aten system. This is a candidate to become an ecumenopolis, but for now we are going to make use of the large amount of agriculture districts. But it is a factory world otherwise. It has a fully developed orbital ring supporting both its factories and its food production. New Light is a research colony in the Tampere system. It is fully developed for now. As soon as we get the full allotment of researchers and culture workers here, we will be shifting this habitation district over to a research district and replacing the clone vats with a housing district or housing building. Triumph is another mining station in the Tampere system. It has reached its extent of development, though it is still replacing a lot of slaves. Acrisia is in the Gaia system. It was a colony or a planet we terraformed here, and it is just recently acquired and is still under development. For now, we are going to be using it for generator districts to help with our deficit of energy credits. Eventually this will become an ecumenopolis. Soil of Hope is another system, or planet in the Gaia system, with bonuses to minerals. Again, this was a fairly recent colony, so it is still in the process of developing. While it has a bonus to minerals, it only has 3 potential mining districts, which makes that of very little value. More than likely, we will convert this to an ecumenopolis when we have better sources of food production. Spring Rain is a research facility in Lethoros. It can still be upgraded further. Jenna was the former capital of the Genlot, who we ended up integrating and then pretty much wiping out their species by declining them. We still do have 2 Genlot left on this world. Now, we have lost this world before. It is in the Raperic system to the Glosswarhenians, but we retook it in the last war. We have converted it to a Thrall world and are mainly going to be using it for agriculture and mining with a little bit of generator. Its orbital ring can be further upgraded. I'm not going to bother putting habitation districts on here. I'm making it an anchorage because I don't really need to get all the generator districts here. And we can still perform Mastery of Nature anyway. So with the 4 remaining districts, I can get both remaining mining districts and 2 of these. And then with the Mastery of Nature, that would just leave me 1 generator district I could not get. So I'm not that worried about having 5 over 4 generator districts on a Thrall world, which doesn't get a huge bonus to resource output. It's just here to kind of supplement. Girdwood in the Talon system was originally a Glosswarhenian planet that we conquered. And we have converted it also into a Thrall world. It is primarily going to be for agriculture, though we have developed the mining and generator districts as well. Kelnudar is in the Iflilan system. It was the capital of the Kelnudar Empire, or small little Kelnudar Empire that was on the border of the Hisban Protectors and constantly getting harassed. We vassalized them and ended up integrating them fairly recently, so we are still in the process of fixing the world. This will potentially become an ecumenopolis, but for now I'm going to make use of the large amount of generator districts and supplement my energy credits until we are able to get our naval capacity under control. We also have several strongholds on here. Ubaria is a very recent acquisition. It is still in the process of being terraformed, as a matter of fact. It is in the Vuzabaru system. Ubaria was the capital of the Ubaric Empire. And when we conquered it and spun it off into a vassal, I think it was called, well, I can't remember what name they came up with, but it suffered a rebellion, and when I reconquered it, I named it the New Ubaric Regime, and after fixing the world, and then we just recently integrated them. So there's a lot of work to do. Right now we're creating some more mining district jobs. The orbital station is just basically brand new here and just adding a couple of habitation modules. Palina is a generator station that was in the Vuzabaru system. It is just now being developed. They did not have it as a generator station. They were using it for other purposes, and I had to shift some of the districts over, and it has a criminal underworld. Lochni is a research station in the Vuzabaru system, and we are in the process of developing the final research district we can develop for now. It also possesses a criminal underworld. Nova Constantinople is a generator station also in Vuzabaru. It's at the extent of its current development until I upgrade the habitat. Mulino was the former capital of the Mazum Empire, which got suffered a rebellion, and when we reconquered it, we turned it into the Molyneux Mining Corporation, and we recently integrated them. We are currently using it as a forge world with mining districts. Its orbital ring has further upgrades it can do. Right now it is boosting the alloy production. And we do have a couple of dismantled buildings. They were using it for research as it was their former capital, but we have no need for that. It is just about done, about a little over a year, and it will no longer be an alpine world. Solaria is another alpine world in the Masm system that we are in the process of terraforming. And we have it currently set as a forge world, though we are using it for agriculture and mining in the interim. It has a brand new orbital ring that for some reason is called Flaxington Station. I forgot to rename that when I renamed the planet. Solaria Station. Now I need to go back through and see some of the other planets that they did have, like 2 Ferderas, and this was an additional Flaxington, for example. I forgot to check and make sure I renamed all the orbital rings. But yeah, its orbital ring is fairly new. Now it does have a Betharian power plant on here. Betharian power plant adds 4 technician jobs and by itself produces 10 energy. And I'm not sure that's worth the building slot, so later on we will end up getting rid of that, and more than likely we will turn this into an Ecumenopolis. Bid Taraki is another former Molyneux mining colony that we now control. And it is fairly new and underdeveloped at this time. Its orbital ring is an anchorage with boost to the energy production. We have a handful of energy districts. Now, I am actually dwindling this planet. I was going to turn it into another Thrall world just to boost the growth of my Thralls for now, which is why I have the merchant job and 2 of the politician jobs shut down. But I'm not quickly evacuating to convert it to a Thrall world. What I'm doing is just slowly declining species, and as I free up slots, I will get rid of districts, and eventually, once I have all the districts and buildings taken care of, I will convert this to a Thrall world. Palace is a mining station in the Masm sector, and it has room for 2 more upgrades. I've been holding off on that at the moment. Right now I'm just trying to get the population sorted on it. Utopia is a generator station in the Masm sector. Also in the same state, it can have 2 more upgrades. And Fitzroy's World is a research station in the Masm sector that has more room for development as well. 2 more upgrades it can do. And that is the current extent of our colonies. We do have another colony ship on its way to Mira over here. Another barren world that was recently converted. And it is a fairly sizable world. And we have 1 more barren world in the process of being converted over here in the Stellaris system. Stellaris 5. It's fairly sizable as well. And it will end up being converted in about 4.5 months. We are in the process of doing an archaeological dig here in Zandbor of debris belt. It is one I had ended up overlooking for the longest time, that the Miravandia Coalition had not actually progressed a single stage on. Most of our colonies have a large glut of species we do not want in our empire that we are slowly declining. And we are in the process of generating our new species to be our slaves from the old Dorbalans. We created several specialized subspecies. the Canadolans to be culture workers, the Philadolans to be entertainers, the Ornithorhynchoans to be farmers, the Simolans to be machinists, producing alloys and consumer goods, the Swedelans to be miners, and the Volpolans to be technicians. The only other slave species we will have in our empire at that point are the Furbinite, who are our battle thralls, to serve as enforcers, soldiers, and be the brunt of our armies. But we have quite a few species we are still in the process of dwindling down. I still have not gotten rid of the last Bodronite, which their home system was in the Ramstam sector, to see if it gets rid of the species altogether. If I toggle the species, there's going to be a little bit of lag here because of all the species, and we look for the Bodronites. There is only one in the galaxy, and it is on my planet. So I believe this species will become extinct when they are finally purged, which we are not currently purging them, I do not believe. I don't even see them listed anymore. I must have shifted them off to another world. But we have a glut of species we picked up through invasions and integration that we are shifting around to all of our worlds to slowly decline. But for now, we are making use of their slave labor wherever possible to fill up jobs. That is the extent of the state of the Commonwealth. We're about 50 years from the start of endgame with our current settings, after which endgame crises will have a higher chance to emerge. We have not really had any interaction with the Dasanu consonants, who were what popped up when the L gates were opened. And there is only one Raider Empire left, and it is fairly weak, the Obadan Freeholders. And 3 fallen empires remain: the Queptilium Archivists, the Triac Forerunners, who are currently at war with the Sovereign Jazajan Assembly, I believe, and the Hisman Protectors, who are very friendly toward us because we have a relic, and they keep doing multiple holy wars against the sovereignty of Tuxcali, who is nearby them. But we do possess the head of Zarkland, which allows us to settle holy worlds without upsetting them. The Hisman Protectors basically love us because we have this. They have been providing fleets to us every 10 years when I activate it. And our current group of Zarkland's Pilgrims is about 1 month away from merging with our existing fleet of them in the Talon system. But thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.